Welcome to the joy of coding. Hello, and welcome to episode 135 of the Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. Once again, just a little disorganized today. There was a little bit of a scheduling foul up with how streaming works here at Mozilla, so I had to delay things, and then things got further delayed, and yada, yada, yada. Excuses. Welcome to episode 135 of the Joy of Coding. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Mike Conley. Going to be hacking on some Firefox stuff today. Let's get to it. So first thing I want to point out is that this is the agenda, and no plan survives breakfast. If it's not clear to you yet, it should. I want to make it abundantly clear to you now that this is all me flying by the seat of my pants. I have nothing up my sleeves. There is no pre-written solutions to these problems I'm going to be working on. I am trying to capture software development in the raw. I am working on these problems like I would at my desk. So I don't have, I don't have the code on a piece of paper next to me that I'm going to try and type out like you'd see at, say, a lecture hall or, a conference talk or something. I'm going to be working live in front of you, for real. And so that means that things can go wrong, and if things go wrong, that's okay. I might get stuck. I might get nowhere. I might fix a bug. I might not fix a bug. I might get halfway through fixing a bug or figuring a bug out. Who knows? We'll do our best. So the other thing I want to shout out is that there is an episode guide, and you should check it out. It's completely community and viewer driven. Almost completely. I've contributed a little bit, but almost completely viewer driven. So if you have notes that you want to add, or if you have transcriptions you want to add to the videos using amara.org, please do. There is a spreadsheet that tells you whereabouts I am with the auto transcriptions I've been doing using Mozilla Deep Speech. And if you're not sure how to create a pull request, there's a link in here on how to do that. And what am I talking about? This thing in front of us, how do you click on it? It's a video. You can't click on it. Well, guess what? Turns out you can. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the additional link section below on old Air Mozilla, and check out the handouts section for the agenda, because that's what we're looking at here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the agenda is in the video description. And if you're watching this on Twitch, then the video or the agenda, I'm about to drop it into the Twitch chat, so let me do that right now. Bada boom. Agenda. There it is. So let's keep going. Is everything working? I think you can hear me. Yes, we're recording. Yes. Okay, let's keep going. Let's just get into some bugs. One thing that I've just noticed is that I had a build running in the background and it failed, and I'd like to know why. What failed here? Cannot compile style. Why not? I was trying really hard, and then something went wrong. I have to kind of go through the back scroll here. So I'm trying to debug an issue with tabswitch spinners. And I checked out an older version of the code, and for some reason it's not building. Now these are a bunch of warnings, and these sorts of warnings don't usually bother me. A lot of them are in third-party tools like Harfbuzz, and there's not much we can do about that. Warning, and then eventually you get down to no such file or directory when logging. Could not compile style. Error. Failed to execute compile from server. Failed to read response header. Failed to fill whole buffer. Huh. Well, let's try it again. Just to see. Is this something that will always happen whenever I attempt to build? Now, so there are a couple of things I want to work on today, including that spinner bug. Let's talk about the different things that we can do today. So the first one is a bug that a couple of people have been reporting on nightly that has to do with tab warming. That's a thing we were working for a while back to improve perceived tab switch performance, which is related to the tab spinner stuff. All of this is tab switch related. I very much care about tab switch performance lately. And one of the things that's occurred is that there's a bug where under certain circumstances you'll be scrolling after like switching a tab or hovering, even just hovering a tab, you'll scroll in a particular tab and then the content won't paint. And that's this bug, 1447193, rendering error after scroll. And if you're curious about how that bug works, because I think I figured it out, how the bug works, you should check out this bug link, and here it comes. And comment 40 describes what's going on here. And I landed the fix, but then got backed out. And the reason I got backed out was because of a test failure. And so I found out why the test was failing, and I landed a fix. And then I found out that our performance infrastructure, our performance benchmarks do not like the change I made, because, like, to fix the test, I think, because I'm regressing, oddly enough, the TabSwitch performance test. So let's take a look and see what we can do about that. One of the things I've been doing in the background is I have this virtual machine running on my Windows box back at my desk called Beast Mode. And Beast Mode is a Linux box that I've had running the benchmark, and I want to check and see what score it got. So let's first of all copy the scores. This is going to be a little bit annoying. I apologize, but I need to get these scores into my notes here. And so because I'm using Byobu and Screen, I don't think there's a great way for me to copy whole swaths of text like I normally would. I'm going to right click on this. Like, as soon as I try and scroll down, like, it's virtual scrolling. I can't copy it. Maybe people who are watching know how to do this copying better, but I'm having to, like, do the virtual scroll down and then copy the text from iTerm and then do more virtual scroll down. So let's keep going. So I'm pasting these scores for the benchmark in this section here. And the reason for that is I've got the ones with the patch already that presumably regress, and I want to capture the before picture. So now I virtually scroll down. I'm going to copy this stuff. This is really annoying. I'm sorry you're having to watch me do this. I would have liked to have done this before the episode started, but you know, I didn't get to it. I just didn't get to it in time. And this is me doing what I would be doing at my desk in the raw, so you can see what's going on. You know, not pulling any punches. So I just copied down to the Daily Mail, and then domain tools. What else? I think we're almost done copying. Just going to copy this chunk here down to people.com.cn. Going to copy that in. And then what I want to do after I've done copying all this stuff in is do a side-by-side comparison, see if the regression is happening on my Linux box. Because if it is, well, then we can maybe do something about it. So here's the last entry. I'll just paste that in, and we're done. So now let's do a comparison. I'm going to actually make the font a little bit smaller. Unfortunately, that's going to make it a little harder for you to read. It's going to make it easier for me to analyze. Maybe let's try and split the difference here, make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to open a second window so I can do a side-by-side comparison. And I'm going to scroll down to, I'm going to have the patch scores on the right, so that's with the patch that apparently regressed things. And then on the left, I've got, wow, why is this such a mess? eBay. Who knows? So without the patch, oh, that was with profiling. I need to scroll to here. Okay. So the average of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 test runs without the patch was 31.60. The average with the patch was 37.40. That's interesting. So it is a little bit worse over there. Let's see if we can repeat that a couple times. 163.com I don't know why these are all kind of messed up here. Let's scroll down and choose a different section, like Rakuten.co.jp. Where are you? Rakuten.co.jp, right here. The average was 26.80 and the median was 27. The average, oh yeah, it was quite a bit worse with the patch, 40, and the median was 39. So I think we've got a decent, I think chances are things have gotten worse with the patch on this Linux box. That's a good thing. It means we've reproduced the issue. So what I want to do is now do some profiling. And the way I'm going to do that is, first I'm going to build symbols. Build symbols. Or hang on, I think it's mock build symbols. I think that's the command. This is going to take a couple minutes on my Linux box, but it's going to produce all of the symbols so that we can do the profiling and then turn all the memory addresses into things that we can read. That'll be handy. And while that's waiting, we're compiling in the background for the spinner thing. And while that's compiling, I'm going to talk briefly about a bug that I'm hoping we can work on during this episode as well. So let me close that and go back to the agenda here. Oh, I didn't end up putting it in my notes, so I'll do that now. So there is a meta bug for the Async Tab switcher for improvements. Async Tab switcher meta. Oh, I think I spelled switcher wrong. Switcher meta. There we go. There's this bug I filed a couple of, maybe like half an hour ago, because there's this pattern I noticed. So let me back up and mention that I wrote an add-on the other day, and you'll probably end up hearing this add-on being used during this episode. It's this one up here. You probably can't see it too well. It's got this little red thing in the corner. I call it Spin Doctor, and what it is anytime a tab switch spinner appears, no matter how short or how long, a sound will play in my ear, and that counter will increment. And I can click on this to clear the counter. And the reason that I'm doing this is because we've noticed that for tab switches, the tab switch spinner is appearing a lot sometimes, but for very, very short amounts of time, sometimes only 50 milliseconds or so. And that can be very difficult for the human eye to perceive. And I'll give you an example, because this is the step to reproduce a very short one that I discovered using Spin Doctor. So here's the step. Open a new tab, and then start typing the title of a tab that's already open in the background, like in this case 145.1401. Opening a new tab and causing switch to tab from the awesome bar always results in short spinner. This is very meta. I'm going to press enter. I don't know if you heard that. Hopefully you did. That's and you saw this counter increment. That meant that a tab switch spinner was apparently displayed, but it was so short that we barely saw it. I don't even think OBS, which is what I'm using to do my streaming and screen capture right now, would have captured a frame fast enough to have encoded that in the video. So my eyes did not even perceive it. Excuse me. But we recorded it anyways, and that means it adds noise and it adds overhead to tab switches. And we should not do that. So this is something I want to look at today, if possible. And it's also something, I just have this theory. So I'm going to put that here. I'm going to link to there. I'm going to create some notes for it. So let's create a new set of notes for that bug. Whoopsie daisy, didn't mean to put that there. I'm going to put that over here instead. URL there, and then we copy the name of the bug and put that in our notes. And I have a theory, hypothesis. On March 20th, on the March 20th nightly build, this bug did not reproduce. And why do I say that? Well, it's wishful thinking, really, because there's this problem. we measure how much the tab switch spinner appears for users on nightly. And I was so happy to see this nice big drop happen when we enabled warming. And then on March 21st, there was this spike, an unexplained spike, which I've marked with bug 1449662, that for some reason showed up, and it's not clear why that is. We did a little bit of digging into that last week, trying to figure out what it could be, and didn't get anywhere. And I'm wondering, is it possible that what I just did, the bug I just filed about opening a new tab and then switching to a pre-existing tab, causing a short tab switch spinner, could that be contributing to this? And if it's a bug on the 21st, but it's not a bug on the 20th, that's pretty decent evidence to suggest that that's what's causing things to go wrong. So that's what I'm building right now in the background. And no, apparently I can't compile. Error caused by error reading compile response from server, failed to read response header, failed to fill whole buffer, could not compile. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Enable profiling using SC cache. Maybe if I disable SC cache, that will make it happier. Unfortunately, it might mean a slower build. So we're done building our symbols over here for the other problem that I'm working on. So now what we can do is we can run the test again, the Talos test. This is without, hang on, where am I in the tree right now? I am on central. You can tell that because of the little @ symbol here. Let me pump up the font. The little @ symbol there indicates where I am in the tree of commits. I'm on central. That means this is without the patch, and I'm going to capture a profile of us running the test. So I'm going to run mock Talos test, the TPS test. I'm going to say gecko profile, and I'm going to point at the symbols path. And the symbols path is at projects Mozilla Central obj. I think it's just default, and then dist bin Firefox. Distbin. Where did oh, there they are. There are the symbols. Because I think that's what I'm building with right now. Let's see. Build with which mouse configure model? I'm on default. Okay, good. So this is going to run the test only twice, not 5 times, only twice, and then create profiles that we can then download, and then maybe we can get a bit of a pattern here. So let's, what, gecko profiler? Oh, profile. It's supposed to be profile. Gecko profile. So that's going to run. Meanwhile, let's look into reasons why this, why Spin Doctor might be picking up a spin when switching tabs like that. One thing, it is wishful thinking. It's almost certain that it's unrelated to bug 1449662, but I really want an explanation. So I'm hoping this is it, and we're gonna hopefully prove it or get some evidence once the build locally here finishes. But in the meantime, we can look at the push log again and see if there's anything related to tab switching in here or the new tab page. Use wait for new tab instead of progress listener in add JSON view tab. That's only for dev tools. I think we looked at that last week. There's nothing new for activity stream. What about the URL bar? No, Marco, no. Awesome bar, no. Address, no. So nothing's showing up in my searches for some keywords for like URL bar, switch, no. that doesn't really give me hope. Not too much hope. So one thing we could do actually is, while we wait for this build to complete, we can get some logs of these str. So the good news is that we make it possible to log tab switch activity in the browser. So I don't think I'm doing it by default right now, but if I go to about config, and then I think the pref is what? Let me find it. Async tab switcher. DWL Salmeda asks, is mock build symbols equivalent to having enabled debug in mozconfig? No, it is not. I don't think so anyways. Like, in a way, I think enable debug generates the symbol information, but build symbols writes the symbol instead of putting the symbol information in like the compiled files, which I think enable debug does. Build symbols extracts them into separate .sim files and then zips them up so that you can pass them around. And our crash reporting infrastructure uses some of that. So there is a bit of a subtle difference. Now the logging pref is, yeah, browser tabs remote log switch timing. It's a hidden pref, I think. So we don't have it by default. I have to add a new pref here. I'm going to say it's true. So now whenever I switch tabs, I'm going to get rid of all of my other tabs here, and we're just going to go with logs. So you see I've got some tab switch logging going on here, which if you've followed the stream before, if you've watched the stream before, you will recognize. So now let's recreate the issue. Let's open a new tab, and then I can clear this information because I guess I don't need it now, and then I'll go mozilla.org, for which I have a tab in the background here, and switch to tab. All right, and we got our problem. So now let's take a look at this log. And let's see what it says. So we're requesting tab 0, loading tab. Tab should be blank is false. Requested tabs remote is true. Interestingly, I don't see any like there was some telemetry gunk in there, but like, where is the part that says that the spinner is being shown? Dude, I thought for sure that we logged update display. Tab should be blank. I guess we don't. Requesting tabs remote, switch to tab 0. And here is when layers eventually show up. Switch to tab 0, switch to. So here's when we actually update the display, which probably causes us to show the spinner. So for some reason we decide to complete the switch and show the spinner, and I don't know why that is. Okay, very interesting. I thought the log would tell us more, but it doesn't. So this log doesn't actually tell us much. What's super interesting is that the issue only seems to occur whenever after I've opened a new tab. So if I were to, for example, now go to switch to this tab, 1449662, I don't get a tab switch spinner. It's only whenever I switch from a new tab. Now, I don't know if it's necessary to switch from a new tab that we've just opened, or if we've, like, what I just did is I opened a new tab, I switched away, and now I switched back. And now let's see if the issue surfaces again. And it does. So anytime I have a new tab, and then the URL, like, what if I have a new tab and I keyboard switch? No? That's so interesting. New tab, keyboard switch, doesn't cause it. New tab, URL bar switch causes it. Mozilla.org. That's fascinating. I Love It asks, are you from Grimsby? Is this Ian Lovett? I seem to recall you from, I don't think from high school, but I think we know people. Yes, I am. Yes, that I am from Southern Ontario, from a small town called Grimsby. What is up, Ian Lovett? Ian Lovett's in the house. Lovett House. Good to see you. Yeah, we know some people. We have some friends in common. I don't know if you and I ever talked. It's fascinating to interact with you over IRC. Well, I'm talking to you in Twitch chat, but I'm connecting over IRC, and I'm working on Firefox. And what's happening? Doug, yeah. So we have a common friend. That would be Doug, Doug McQuiggan, and his brother Eric McQuiggan, who I believe is also someone you know, Ian Lovett. Fantastic. So that's some personal information out there on the internet now about my social life. There you go. Let's keep going. Let's keep figuring out what the heck's going on here with this tab switch spinner. Did this build finish? Still going. So it's just theory time. We have to guess. We have to guess. So we decide that we need a tab switch spinner if we call into update display and then the tab is not loaded, we're not minimized, and the tab should not be blank. And that seems actually like what's going on here, because this done 0 thing, that runs at the end of oh, hold on, you can't really see the bottom of my screen, can you? Ian Lovett's like, I'll PM you. Okie dokie. We run that done message after post actions, and post actions happens right after update display. And update display is that function we were just in. So here or here, I think it might actually be here after we've updated everything. This is when we're showing the tab switch spinner. And so we must call into it for some reason, and I don't know why yet. We call into update display for some reason. You know, that's actually a thing we could maybe debug live using the built-in debugger. So let me open up the browser toolbox. Just so you know, Ian Lovett, if you're watching this and you're PMing me over Twitch something or other, I don't really know how to communicate over Twitch. I'm pretty much a Twitch noob. I don't know if I'll receive. I'll go to the Twitch website after the stream is done, and hopefully it'll be clear to me how to receive the message. If not, send me mail, or communicate with me over Twitter or something. He'll email me. Great. All right. So what am I doing here? I want to Async Tabs switcher. I want to set a breakpoint right here where we decide that needs spinner. This is where I want to set a breakpoint. And I want to know why we enter update display. So hopefully when I run these str, the steps to reproduce, and I hit this breakpoint, it'll become clear. So let's rearrange our windows a little bit here. Oh, come on. Why can't I grip it? I can't grip it and rip it. All right, so then I'll grip this side. No, seriously? Okay, then top right. What? I can't resize this window. That is not cool. Well, never mind then. I'll just have that running in the background. I'll open a new tab, and then I'm going to go star or pound or percent Mozilla.org. So percent is how we always ensure that the results in the awesome bar only. He'll snail mail me. Great. Just send it to Grimsby. They know who I am. Percent symbol means that awesome bar is only, the awesome bar here is only going to search for the existing open set of tabs to show results for. So now we're going to hit the issue. Hey, didn't hit the issue. That's very interesting. And I didn't hit my breakpoint either. Let's try that again. Mozilla.org. Very interesting. Now, why is that? Is it because for some reason it's sensitive to the fact that I created a breakpoint? Or could it have something to do with the fact that I made the window smaller? That could be it. Let's close some tabs and try the experiment again. I'm going to put the breakpoint back. I'm going to say Mozilla.org. No, didn't hit the bug. So maybe if I make this window larger, let's try it that way. You know what's interesting? I just realized this. Whenever the I think I know what's happening. I think I know what's happening. Okay, I want to point out something. Maybe you noticed this, maybe you didn't. We are dealing with a race condition. Whenever you open a new tab and then switch away, Mozilla.org. One thing you should notice is that the tab that I was looking at, the original new tab, has disappeared. It goes away. This is an optimization so that, like, whenever I think this was a couple of years ago, whenever you open a new tab and you like type something in and you press enter, if there's a pre-existing tab already pointed there, we automatically switch to it, and then we get rid of the new tab you open because like you're not using it. We close it down. And what the Async Tab switcher is doing is it is waiting until the pixels are ready from the tab that we're switching to in order to show them for the tab switch. And until they're ready, we continue to show the old pixels. But the problem is that because we're closing the tab before we do the tab switch, that tab is gone. And so we don't have the old pixels anymore to show. And so we fall back to showing the Async Tab switcher. That's what's going on. So I can write that in here. I think I know what's going on here. We, anytime we have an anytime we use switch to tab from the About New Tab page, and maybe other pages, like about home or about blank, I'm not sure. We'll switch to the new tab after closing the about new tab, the about page. That means that we don't keep the layers around to display to the user. We don't keep the layers around to display to the user, and so we fall back to showing the spinner during the tab switch. And so the part of the code that closes the tab, that's actually a thing that I would like to understand. So that I'm going to bring back the toolbox, set a breakpoint there, and see what's going on. Hey, Ian Levitt, I'm not sure if you're still watching, but I got some sound effects for you. Last one. All right. So let's set a breakpoint inside the tabs switcher stuff. Oh, not the tab switcher stuff, the tab closing stuff, because I want to understand what part of the code base is closing the browser or closing that about new tab whenever we do the switch. So I'm going to search for remove tab is the name of the function. Where is it? Here it is, remove tab. So we'll set a breakpoint there, and then I'm going to open a new tab. There it is. And then I'm going to recreate the issue. And I've hit my breakpoint. And the breakpoint, the call stack is in handle command in the URL. Here we go. If switch to tab having you, so when we switch the tab, what is this action type? Switch tab. If has attribute hand revert, then we switch to tab having URI. If we're going to switch to the tab and the tab is empty, meaning so we have a couple of different ways of measuring or claiming whether or not a tab's empty. One is whether or not it's just pointed at about new tab. I think there are a couple others as well. What I'm realizing is that it's very unlikely that this is at all related to that regression that we were seeing in our graph, which is a little disappointing, but it means I can stop this build, and that should speed up my computer a bit. Is tab empty? Yeah, we return true if the tab is what? Oh, is a blank page URL. Right. That's if you're about blank, about home, or about new tab. So it's what I thought. So I can get rid of the wishy-washiness here. Time we use from a new tab page or any page we consider blank. Here's where we do that switch and removal. So let's find the right part of the code base. Is TabEmpty. It's called from tab URL bar bindings. This stuff. Now we're going to permalink to that code, and we'll put it here. So in a way, this is a variation on close tab flash, or close tab blank, close tab animation. Or remove tab no animate. So there's this bug that this is related to. Tab animate. And I think it's something that I remember talking to Doug Thayer about. I gotta find it. Where's it gonna be? Is it gonna be blocking async tab switcher improvements? No, it is not. Where can I find it? Where can I find it? Ah, geez. Search bugs. Tab remove animation. Because the bug is essentially whenever the tab is removed. Tab close animation. Something we triaged. Something we triaged. Maybe it went to fxperf p3. So my team, the performance team, close animation, stare animation, suppress animation. Aha! I think this is it. So I think this is a variation on this. Variation on bug 1425887 because the underlying cause is the same. We have a tab going, we are switching to a tab having just removed the previous tab, and so we don't have the old layers around anymore to keep showing. Okay, and let me pump up the file so you can see a bit better. Similarly, we do a similar thing when exiting customize mode, it seems. I'll demonstrate that as well. So check this out. If I enter customize mode, make sure, do I have my breakpoints cleared? Let me get rid of my breakpoints. I don't need those anymore. In fact, I can close the browser toolbox, but I exit customize mode, and yeah, browser's really janky. What's going on? I think OBS is taking up like 1,000% of my CPU, it looks like. Well, that's a classic. Okay, so this is interesting, and it's queued for triage, but I'm glad I understand how that works now. And in fact, I think I understand. See this comment. So I'm going to link to this comment for my notes. All right, so put that to bed, sort of, or at least I understand how it works. Got to figure out what to do about it, but for now, let's go back to our profiling run that we did here, where it appears we have finished the profile run and we have a zip file with the profile in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, I think I'm going to copy this to my local, here, let me pump up the font again so you can see. So I'm going to copy that file to my local machine. Don't I have like some tab switch, tab spin? No. Spinner. I'm going to create a new folder. Tab spinner profiles. So this isn't actually, no, that's not the right name. Move tab spinner profiles to, what's it called? This bug that I'm working on. It's like the tab warming rendering after scroll error fix profiles. That's not right either. But I'll just call it bug 1447193. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy the, where was it? The file is located here on my virtual machine on my Windows box. I'm going to copy that locally. Come on. There we go. It's a pretty beefy file. Meanwhile, while we're pulling that up, let us switch to the other build. Or switch to the patches that have the regression. And actually, I'm going to modify this patch just a little bit to be a little more in line with what I was hoping to do anyways. Tab child init C++. We're going to go and going to move this down to receive activate. Oh, it was already there. I think I'd done an improper copy over when I brought the patch over here. That was my bad. So html that. And then I'm going to build it, and I'm going to build symbols, and then we can run the profiling on this machine after. So let's take a look at the profile that we got. I'm going to open perf.html. That's the tool that we use to look at profiles. Let's look at page cycle 2 for each one. Come on now. Here we go. So a lot of this is actually useless. The first 50 seconds or so is us just loading the tabs that we're switching back and forth from. Because like, here's what the TPS test does. If you've never run it, if you're not familiar with it, this is the tab switch performance test, called TPS because of an Office space reference, whatever. But what it does is it loads a bunch of tabs in the background, and then it will switch back and forth between them and measure the time it takes from initiating the switch to actually presenting the pixels to the user. And all of this previous stuff is the loading of the pages all at the same time, and this is the tab switching stuff. And the gaps are because in between the tab switches, we pause the profiler so that it gets rid of noise, stuff we don't need. So this is the stuff we care about. I'm going to upload that for safekeeping. Excuse me. Upload, upload, upload. There we go. And we'll take that link. And so Linux box without patch. And then Linux box with patch profile, without patch profile. And one of the things that we'd been looking at before was that like people.com.cn was a lot slower. So we can take a look at those samples. Here's I think here is where it loads. You can see some samples showing up in Content Process 2 for it. What we'll do is we'll get rid of the threads that we don't, we need 3 or 2. We can get rid of 1, 3, and 4, those content processes we don't need. And then what we can see here is just the samples that we care about, where state's not active. Rasterize. Rasterize again. So without the patch, this is what happens for, well, let's double check. What are we painting here? Let's pump up the font. We're painting this website, people.com.cn, some page in China. And it takes us 10 samples, 10 milliseconds, because I think it's 10 milliseconds. I don't exactly remember the sampling frequency here. And then there's another paint that happens not long after due to a refresh driver tick. And so this is what we're going to be comparing against. How's beast mode doing? It's just linking. Oh, it finished the build and is now. Wait a second. I have a hard time believing it actually built my patch. I don't believe you. Did you actually build my patch? Maybe I got my command incorrect. Mock build. Make build symbols. Yeah, you know what? I should have done mock build first. And then mock build symbols. That's what I should have done. Because this is what I need to see. Those changes that I've put onto the change stack need to be built in. It shouldn't take too long. but we need to relink, basically. All right, so this is what we're going to be comparing against, and states not active, and then the doc shell, GC slice. Slice. We're doing some garbage collection because it's not active. Interesting. Good to know. That will run the GC on the doc shell whenever it's not active. What else is going on in here that we can compare against? The Displayport suppression stuff, that's all under APZ. Is there any APZ code I need to worry about? APZ callback. We're just receiving a mouse event, no big deal. Pres shell. The presentation shell. We paint here. That's a pretty early paint. Right there. Oh, because we've already seen this. This is, now that I come to think of it, come to think of it, this doesn't make sense. The TPS test, so one of the things that we were looking at, or one of the things that I'm having to deal with, let me run the TPS test now, is that I'm getting rid of Displayport suppression, which means that we get to paint less, we have less work to do, less communication with the content process. But I had a test failure, and the test failure was because, we're trying to switch to a tab and activate it before the presentation infrastructure is set up, so we fail. And the Displayport suppression stuff happened to be causing that stuff to be created in time for the activation. So it was like there was a dependency there that was pretty accidental. And so then I removed it like a Jenga block, and this stuff came down. And it's stuff that I should be able to remove, but now I have to fix the old thing, which is whenever we switch to a tab, and if the pres shell is not yet ready, we have to make sure that, is it switching to a tab? I think, yeah, when we send activate. Send activate. Yeah. And activate's called by when we focus. When we focus it. Not necessarily, it's not necessarily whenever we switch to it, but when we focus it, we send activation. Got it. But here's the thing. The pres shell is created whenever we first load all those tabs, and we do sort of like a warm-up switch through of all the tabs, which isn't part of any of the measurement. So I don't know what to do about this. Like, it makes me think that maybe no, there's nothing in here about focus except, well, what's this? We're flushing in the parent. In general, across all of the children, what do we have about focus? Do we open ourselves up to like a bunch of focus pane? Without the patch, what happens? Not a whole lot. In just the content processes, when it comes to focusing, what happens? Message received. We receive activate. We cause focus to occur. And we do an allocation. Because we update commands. Let's look at this one, because we've got some samples there. Get rid of 2, 3, and 4. We'll bring back the main threads. So this page is mashable.com. And then where do we receive activate? Right here. After, because we service this message. Okay. Hey, all right, we're creating our profiles here on the Linux machine. This will help. I think this will help. Anyway, and we focus. That's not that expensive. That's like just a little guy. That's just one sample. Oh, there's another little thing over here. What's this? Paint inner focus border when we initially paint. Okay. So here's just a little guy. I should probably double check the sampling frequency, because that little guy might actually be like 10 milliseconds. Okay, let us bring over this profile. We'll call it profile TPS bad.zip. Password's wrong, I'll bet. Yep. There we go. And then let's open up this profile. Rasta. That's what I Love It said. Makes me want pasta. All right, so whoa, what's interesting is that I'm missing, I've got 2 extra content processes here for some reason. Okay, well, let's get rid of those. Not sure what happened there. We'll just focus in on this part. I want to look at focus. Or how about receive activate? Just a little bit there. Just a little guy. Receive activate. Happens here after the pres shell is already created. Now what's interesting is that, like, I'm noticing a bunch of these like double paints, like a paint one right after the other. I wonder if that's related, or if that's problematic at all. It might be. That might be more work than we need to do. What page is this for? This is for, let's get rid of 3. Oh no, we need 3. We need to get rid of 4, 5, and 6. Put 3 back. We are painting page imgur.com, an Imgur gallery. That's in the bad case. Let's zoom out here. Let's put the other threads back. Let's see if we can find Imgur in the good case and compare. Here's Imgur. So get rid of 2, 3, and 4. Now that's interesting. Only 1 paint. 2 paints here, 1 paint here. So that means that we get from Where is the Moz after paint event fired in the good case? Command update. Moz after paint. Select. Moz layer tree ready occurs here. I think that's actually the important part. Moz layer tree ready. The event was ready, like the tab was ready. And that makes sense because the compositor, we paint here, we upload here, we composite, and then by the time the main thread is prepared to handle an event, it does right here, and that's Moz layer tree ready. So that's how long it took in the good case. Let's mark that out. That's 58 milliseconds. And in the bad case, how long did it take? Well, Moz layer tree ready's here. But ultimately, this has everything to do with Moz after paint. Moz after paint's the thing that we measure. Moz after paint. $25 or so milliseconds. 30 milliseconds because there were 2 paints in here. Why were there 2? We got a VSync here. We got a VSync here. And over here it's because we were force painting. Receive render layers. Will paint window. Then we paint so that we can show stuff immediately. Composite. Moz layer tree ready. So like 43 versus 57 in the good case. Good case. We're actually performing a little bit better if you look at how, if we don't pay attention. I'm starting to think that maybe the Moz after paint event, like this test might just suck. This is looking at the wrong thing. The Moz after paint event only fires here. And it didn't fire here. Why not? Does the Moz after paint event ever fire after a force paint event or a force paint request? That's something I want to know. Let's see. Force. Here's a force paint, I think. Or rather, just render layers. Render layers. Maybe that's what I should look at. Receive render layers. Let's pick a couple. Let's pick these 2. Double. Double. It's always double paints. Double paints. Paint, 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 paint. And in the good case, what's happening? Receive render layers. In the good case, let's highlight a couple here. There is a paint and then another paint, but it happens after, like quite a ways after. Like there's only a single paint. That's the problem, I think. That's why we're regressing here. Single paint, And then what's the distance here? I hope it's 16 milliseconds. Not quite, but I mean, since the end of the last refresh driver tick, that's something like 16 milliseconds. Kind of. We're supposed to be going in every 16 milliseconds. Refresh driver tick, but this is a force paint, that's why. Flush, refresh driver tick. And in the good case, or in the bad case, we're just doing these like hyper frequent, like paint, then refresh driver tick immediately. Paint, refresh driver tick immediately. Is there a Moz after paint here? Because that might blow my whole theory out of the water. What are you? Display list resources, not a Moz after paint. So we should, okay, so let's write this down. I think I'm gonna probably cap the stream right around there, but let's save this profile, upload it. But that's interesting. I think we found something super, super interesting. And I actually don't know which part of the patch is involved here. With the patch, oh, you know what? Could it be because okay, whenever the tab child, when we receive a message, render layers, we do this thing where we suppress the display port to paint as quickly as possible. So we only paint just like what we need to, and then we unsuppress it immediately after. When you unsuppress the display port, then I think we schedule a paint. Schedule a paint. That's why. That's why there are two. We unsuppress the display port, we schedule a paint, then the refresh driver tick happens, and then we paint. And that's the one that we get the Moz after paint for. But then, what were we doing before? Because like those other paints, like let's look at this one. When does the Moz after paint show up? Does it show up after the first paint? Yeah, it does. Render layers, we paint. And then eventually we dispatch that Moz after paint. But I think we interrupt. By scheduling another paint, we interrupt, we paint again, and then the Moz after paint then fires. That's what I think's happening. Okay. So let's write this down so we don't forget. Story of my life. With the patch, we make it so that we stop suppressing display ports as soon as render layers is done. This causes us to schedule a paint, which I believe causes us to paint before the render layers Moz after paint can be dispatched properly. So we end up with two paints before Moz after paint. Which is what the TPS test is picking up on. Right. All right, that I am 95% sure that's what's happening. So, what to do about it? Tactics. 1. Alter TPS test so that it uses Moz layer tree ready instead of Moz after paint in the content process to eliminate this class of measurement issue. Dose, because that would be more realistic. The user doesn't care about that second paint. The first paint did show, it did present. The fact that the content process scheduled another one, then did that, and then fired the Moz after paint isn't something that the user super cares about. So eliminate this class of measurement issue. 2, make it so that unsuppressing Displayport what other things can we do there? I can't think of anything. I'll think about it, but I think I need to end this stream. That's what needs to happen. Is I need to cap this off. Hey, we discovered some stuff. That was a lot more useful than last week's episode. I don't know if you watched last week's episode, but it sucked, in my opinion. It was pretty bad. I didn't get anywhere on anything. And that sometimes is useful as a way of demonstrating that sometimes you just get nowhere. But this was nice because I think we actually discovered something. I think by looking at these profiles, we actually figured something out. So, hey, thank you so much for watching episode 135 of The Joy of Coding. Is there anything else I want to say? Yeah, rate this episode. Let me know what you thought. There's a link inside the agenda to a form that you can let me know what you thought of this episode and give me your feedback. I use it to help shape the series. Also, there's a fun picture of me at the end of the form, so you can go and check that out. And on that note, I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for watching episode 135. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. The joy of coding. See ya.